Welcome to Kaumudy Global. No one will tell us what our laws should be. That's the policy maintained by the Taliban law enforcers. By allowing Afghans to use phones and watch television, the Taliban declare they have reformed since their previous stint in power. They still intend to implement harsh law and order measures drawn from Islamic law from the 7th century, such as hanging, beheading, flogging, and stoning, all of which are carried out without the benefit of a fair trial. This is despite their self-described reforms. The Taliban cite other Islamic countries as examples where the use of corporal punishment is permitted and that the strict sharia laws are effective at deterring crime. The Taliban-led government has committed to restrict fundamental human rights as Afghanistan's population continue to live in misery, going unnoticed by the majority of the international community. The protracted Afghanistan conflict unexpectedly ended as the Taliban took control of the nation in August 2021, giving birth to an escalating human rights and humanitarian crisis. Women's rights advancements and media freedom, two of the most significant successes of post-2001 reconstruction effort, were immediately reversed by the Taliban. Women were not allowed to work in the majority of government positions or many other fields, and the majority of secondary schools for girls were closed. Both their reproductive rights and to wear makeup were restricted. Many media outlets shut down or substantially reduced their reporting when the Taliban beat and imprisoned journalists, in part because many of them had already left the country. No women and no ministers from outside the ranks of the Taliban were part of the new Taliban cabinet. The Ministry for Women's Affairs was abolished by the Taliban in September, and the Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice was established in its place. This organization was tasked with enforcing laws governing citizens' behavior, including how women should dress and whether or not they should leave the house unaccompanied by a male relative. The shelters that had been established for women fleeing violence have been closed, and some of the women who lived in them have been transferred to women's prisons. There was no legal proceeding, no jury, and no one to challenge the Taliban's claims and atrocities. Between 1996 and 2001, the Taliban whipped individuals for minor infractions, cut off the arms and feet of accused thieves, and shot prisoners at point-blank range. The horrific stories that were told about what happened at Kabul's Ghazi Stadium have become part of the local folklore in Afghanistan. In the Afghan city of Herat, in the northwest, the Taliban murdered 4 men in 2021 and hung their bodies in open spaces. Many commuters were astonished by the display and began to understand the gravity of the situation when one lifeless body hung off a crane above them. The freshly elected mayor then branded the victims as kidnappers and boasted that the corpses were displayed as a powerful deterrent. Other criminals would suffer the same fate, he warned. In a recent news, Taliban laid down an inhuman judgment on a young lady who eloped with a married man. However, before the judgment could be meted out to the lady, she committed suicide rather than face the cruel fate that awaited her. The incident occurred in the Ghor province of Afghanistan. A media outlet reported that the lady was to be executed by stoning. The Taliban had already executed the man on October 13th. The police chief of Ghor province, Abdul Rahman, said that as there were no jails to house female prisoners, it was decided to stone her to death. What an irony. However, the young lady preferred committing suicide by strangling herself with a headscarf rather than falling a prey to the sadistic law enforcers. Since the Taliban took control of Afghanistan, the country is facing a severe decline in human rights, women's rights, and religious freedom. The atrocities of Taliban officials have forced the country's Hindu and Sikh minorities to escape persecution. Gender minorities have either fled or evacuated to other countries. Notably, Afghan women are staring at a bleak future due to a number of restrictions imposed by the Taliban governing aspects of their lives. India has been calling upon all sections of the political spectrum in Afghanistan to work together to meet the aspirations of all people in that country, including those from the minority community, for a prosperous and safe future. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Monday reiterated India's stance of inclusive Afghan-led, Afghan-owned and Afghan-controlled reconciliation process to bring peace and stability to Afghanistan. Speaking at a media briefing at the Modi @20 event in Surat, he said, "Tragic things are happening in Afghanistan. India cannot determine what is happening in Afghanistan. Afghans have to determine what is happening in Afghanistan. What India can do is help Afghan people in a difficult time." Human rights activists contend that if the Taliban continue to sentence people without fair trials, they will never receive the legitimacy in the international community that they crave for nothing but to at least procure frozen funds and keep the country running. However, some argue that engaging with the group is the only way to change its behavior, including when it comes to legal reforms and a more humane justice system. This is Anjana signing off. Do like and share this video. For further updates, subscribe to Kaumudy Global.